The diamond bracelet hit the marble floor with a sharp crack. Then Bola Okoro raised it above her head like evidence from a murder scene. "Everybody, look well!" she shouted into the microphone. "We invited a bride into this family, but a thief entered wearing white." The live band stopped mid-note. Nearly 300 guests turned towards Ese Ibe as two security men emptied her handbag across the wedding table. Lip balm, a folded handkerchief, her small Bible, and the empty velvet box that had held Bola Alo's missing bracelet. Mama Aisha stepped forward, her gold gel trembling with rage. "So this is what hunger has taught you," she hissed. "Before the wedding cake was cut, you had already started packing our property. Security, remove that veil. Let everybody see the face of the beggar my son wanted to marry." A glass tipped from someone Alo's hand. Red wine splashed across Ese Alo's white gown. Laughter broke from the Okoro family table. Halima rose from her seat, but Bola shoved her back. "Sit down, old woman. Poverty has already spoken enough today." That was when Wale moved. He stood between Ese and the guards, tore the Okoro family pin from his jacket, and dropped it on the floor. "Touch my wife again," he said, "and this wedding ends before God hears one vow." Ese did not cry. She slowly wiped the wine from her wrist, looked directly at Bola, and spoke with a calmness that silenced the entire hall. "Lock every exit. Preserve every camera recording. And nobody should delete one message from their phone." Bola Alo's smile disappeared. Because the woman they had just called a penniless thief was the billionaire whose signature could save or destroy Winder, the Okoro Empire. Do not leave this story halfway, because what happened when Ese revealed the evidence turned that wedding hall upside down. Tell us your city or country, and your local time in the comments. And subscribe now. Because the people laughing at her were about to beg for the same dignity they refused to give. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. The air conditioning hummed above the crystal chandeliers. A spoon rolled in a slow circle beneath table 11, scraping the marble once, twice, then settling beside a gold sandal. Somewhere near the entrance, a photographer lowered his camera as if the machine had suddenly become too heavy for his hands. Bola forced out a laugh. "Lock the exits," she repeated. "Who are you to give orders in our family Alo's event center?" Ese looked at the bracelet in Bola Alo's fist, then at the empty velvet box lying beside her Bible. "I am the person you accused," she said. "That gives me the right to ask that the evidence should not disappear." "Evidence?" Mama Aisha snapped. "The evidence is already on this table. The bracelet was inside your bag. What else do you want? A committee of beggars to explain it for you." A few guests laughed again, but not as loudly as before. Wale turned his head slowly towards his mother. "Mummy, enough. Do not mummy me," Aisha replied. "I warned you. I told you this girl was not our level, but you carried her on your head like one village treasure. See what she has done now." Wale Alo's jaw tightened. "No. What I see is my family condemning a woman before checking one camera." Bola lifted the microphone again. "Camera will show what?" "That she opened her hungry handbag and swallowed my jewelry." Ese Alo's eyes moved past her to the corridor leading to the bridal suite. At 1:47 that afternoon, the camera mounted above that corridor had been turned 11 degrees towards the wall. She had noticed it when she returned from the restroom. The red light had still been blinking, but the lens was no longer facing the doorway. At the time, she had assumed it was a careless adjustment. Now she knew better. "Mr. Manager," Ese called. The event center manager, a tall man in a black suit, froze beside the sound console. "Yes, Ma?" "Who changed the direction of the bridal corridor camera?" His mouth opened, but no answer came. Bola squeezed the microphone. "Why are you asking him useless questions?" "Search her body and call the police." Ese turned to one of the security men. Did either of you see me put that bracelet inside my bag? No, Ma, the younger guard said. Did you see Bola remove it from my bag? The guard swallowed. She asked us to search, Ma. She pointed to the handbag. Exactly, Bola said quickly, because that was where the thief kept it. How did you know which bag to point at? Ese asked. The hall became quiet again. Bola blinked. All the bridal things were in one place. No, Ese replied. There were 7 bags in that room. 2 belonged to the makeup artist, 1 belonged to the tailor, 1 belonged to Halima, and 3 belonged to me. You directed security to the smallest one before anybody opened anything. Mama Aisha waved a dismissive hand. Stop behaving like a lawyer. A thief can speak grammar. It does not wash her hands. Halima stood again, this time slowly. Her wrapper was made from simple blue Adaya fabric. The sleeve had been repaired near the elbow with thread so neat that only a careful eye could see it. Aisha had laughed at that sleeve earlier in the afternoon and asked whether Ese Ibe's people could not afford new clothes for a wedding. Now Halima looked at her without lowering her eyes. My daughter has never stolen 1 naira in her life, she said. Bola stepped towards her. Old woman, sit down before I ask security to throw you outside. Wale moved before Bola could touch her again. Put your hand on Mama Halima one more time, he said quietly, and I will forget that you are my elder sister. Bola stopped. The threat was not loud. That made it worse. Ese reached for Halima Alo's hand. Mama, please stand beside me. Halima came to her. Her fingers were warm and trembling. Ese turned to the manager. Back up every camera from noon until now. Use the secondary server, not the office computer. Call whoever manages access control and tell them not to overwrite any entry logs. The manager glanced at Mama Aisha. Aisha Alo's chin lifted. Do not obey her. Wale stepped forward. This property may carry our family name, but I am the operations director. Preserve the footage. The manager nodded sharply. Yes, sir. Bola Alo's face hardened. You are choosing this woman over your blood. I am choosing due process over madness, Wale replied. Due process, Aisha scoffed. In my own hall? In any hall where a person is accused? Huh? He said. That sentence did something strange to Ese. She had known Wale loved her. She had known it from the way he listened when she spoke. From the way he never laughed at work that left dirt under a person Alo's nails. From the way he had sat beside Halima on a plastic chair and eaten jollof rice from a chipped plate without squeezing his face. But love spoken in private was one thing. Love that stood upright before 300 witnesses was another. The first time S met Wale, he had mud on his trousers and anger in his voice. It was 18 months earlier, on a flooded street in Amuwo Odofin, 3 days after heavy rain had pushed dirty water into 26 ground-floor rooms. Green Arc Circular Systems had sent a team to clear plastic waste blocking the drainage channel. Wale Alo's engineering firm had been contracted to assess the damaged culvert. The residents were tired. The workers were angry. 2 local boys had demanded money before allowing the excavator to pass. Wale stood beside the machine, arguing with a subcontractor who wanted to leave. If you drive away now, this water will enter another compound before evening, he said. The subcontractor pointed at the crowd. Oga, they are threatening my driver. I will not risk my equipment. Then Ese arrived in a plain grey shirt, black trousers and rubber boots. Nobody announced her. She did not come with sirens or bodyguards pushing people aside. She walked into the brown water, spoke to the residents, asked the boys what they wanted, and discovered that the contractor had damaged 2 stalls the previous week without paying compensation. Within 43 minutes, Ese had arranged payment for verified damage, assigned 2 Green Arc supervisors to monitor the clearing. and convinced the youths to help direct traffic. Wale watched her work. He assumed she was a field coordinator. "You handled that well," he told her when the excavator finally moved. Ese wiped rainwater from her face. "People are difficult when nobody listens to the reason behind their difficulty. You are saying those boys were right to block the road. I am saying a wrong action can still point to a real grievance." Wale stared at her, then laughed. "You like complicated answers. I like complete answers." That was how it began. For the next 6 weeks, they worked around the same drainage project. Wale saw Ese checking wage sheets at 6:30 in the morning, sharing bottled water with laborers, and stopping one supervisor from deducting money from temporary workers because rain had delayed the truck. One afternoon, he found her crouched beside an elderly waste picker whose hand had been cut by broken glass. "Madam," the woman said, "I am managing. It is only small cut." Ese looked at the blood soaking through the cloth. "This small cut will become a big problem if infection enters it." "You are going to the clinic." The woman protested about losing her day aloes pay. Ese told payroll to mark the hours as worked. Wale noticed. He noticed many things. He noticed that Ese never told people to be grateful for what they were already entitled to receive. He noticed that she asked cleaners for their names. He noticed that when she was angry, her voice became calmer instead of louder. He also noticed that she avoided questions about her family. When he finally asked her to dinner, she chose a small restaurant in Surulere instead of the rooftop place he suggested. "Are you afraid of expensive food?" Wale teased. "No," she said. "I am afraid of paying 12,000 naira for rice that cannot greet pepper properly." He laughed until the waiter smiled. 3 months later, when their relationship became serious, Ese invited Wale to a quiet office in Ikoyi. There, in a conference room with no family photographs and no decoration beyond a framed certificate, she told him the truth. "I founded Green Arc," she said. Wale leaned back. "Nah, you mean you work for Green Arc? I mean I own 63.4% of it." For the first time since she had known him, he had no reply. Ese pushed a file across the table. Her audited stake, based on the latest independent valuation, was worth about 9.6 billion naira. The company processed plastics, agricultural waste, and hotel refuse across 4 states. It employed 712 permanent workers and contracted with more than 2,000 waste collectors through cooperatives. Wale read the first page twice. Then he looked at her plain blouse, her unpainted nails, and the small scratch on her wrist from the drainage site. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because we were still learning whether we liked each other," Ese replied. "Money can make people perform. I did not want performance." Wale closed the file. "Were you testing me?" "No. I was protecting myself. There is a difference." He considered that. Then he asked the question that made her trust him more. "Who else knows? And what are your security concerns?" He did not ask what car she owned. He did not ask how much she would bring into marriage. He did not ask whether she could rescue his family aloes business. He asked what she needed to feel safe. By then, Green Arc was restructuring some of its holdings and preparing for a major investment round. Ese Ibe's name existed in public corporate records, but she rarely appeared in interviews. David Ese, company secretary, handled most formal announcements, while the managing director represented Green Arc at industry events. Wale signed a confidentiality agreement willingly. "I will tell my mother when you are ready," he said. Ese shook her head. "Tell her I have a business. Tell her I am financially independent. That should be enough for a family deciding whether they can respect me." It was not enough. The first time Mama Aisha met Ese, she spent 20 minutes asking questions that sounded polite but carried small knives inside them. "What does your father own?" "He passed away." Ese replied, "May his soul rest. And your mother?" "She also passed away." Aisha clicked her tongue. "Ah, so no family house, no land, no title?" "I have Mama Halima." Aisha looked at the older woman Aloe's modest wrapper and smiled without warmth. "Yes, I can see." Bola was worse. When Wale explained that Ese worked in recycling, Bola laughed so loudly that two waiters turned around. "Recycling," she said. "Wale, is this the wife you found after traveling around Lagos? A woman who smells dustbin for a living?" Ese answered before Wale could. "Waste does not stop being waste because rich people put it in a gold bin." Bola Aloe's smile vanished. From that day, she disliked Ese with purpose. The dislike became fear when Okoro Heritage Hospitality began negotiating a sustainability partnership with Greenarch. The family company had 2 hotels, 1 event center, and a boutique guest house, but years of careless borrowing had weakened it. Their vehicles were leased. Their jewelry was often used as loan security. The staff salary account had gone into overdraft 5 times in 1 year. Still, Mama Aisha behaved as though Lagos itself paid rent to the Okoro family. The proposed Greenarch program was worth 3.27 billion naira over 5 years. It would install solar systems, redesign waste collection, introduce biodegradable packaging, and connect the hotels to women-led food and textile cooperatives. The contract could save them. But it came with strict conditions. Every supplier had to be paid within 30 days. All procurement records would be audited. Related party companies had to be declared. Anonymous complaints from workers would be independently reviewed. Bola had read those conditions and felt the floor shift beneath her. For 4 years, she had been using 3 companies, controlled through friends and former staff. She inflated invoices, delayed legitimate suppliers, and moved the difference through consulting fees. By the time Ese Ibe's wedding day arrived, the hidden amount had reached 87.4 million naira. Ese did not know that yet, but she had begun asking questions. Why had a laundry cooperative in Mushin remained unpaid for 82 days? Why had the flower vendor received only half of an approved invoice? Why were the wedding gift bags suddenly imported when Ese had already commissioned a women aloes cooperative in Abeokuta to produce them? Each question tightened the rope around Bola Aloe's neck, and so Bola decided that the bride must not enter the family. Not as Wale Aloe's wife, not as a woman with access to the company Aloe's records, not at all. Back in the wedding hall, the manager hurried towards the security office. One guard locked the side doors, while another asked guests to remain calm. Mama Aisha nearly exploded. "You are locking my guests inside because of this girl?" "We are preserving the scene," Wale said. "This is a wedding, not a police station. You turned it into a trial without a judge." Bola stepped close to Ese. Her perfume was sweet and heavy. "You think speaking softly will save you," she whispered. "By tonight, every blog in Lagos will carry your face. Poor bride caught stealing at billionaire wedding. That is what people will remember." Ese looked at her. "Then you should be very sure your story can survive a timestamp." Bola Ala's eyes flickered. Ese took out her phone. "Oh, Barrister David," she said when the call connected. "Activate the evidence preservation protocol. Inform Mr. Nwosu that tomorrow Elo's audit has moved forward. We may have procurement interference connected to today Aloe's incident." On the other end, David was silent for 1 beat. Then he said, "Understood. Do not allow anyone to remove devices from the premises." Bola heard the word audit. The color left her face. The wedding had started going wrong long before the bracelet touched the floor. At 8:12 that morning, Halima arrived at Astor Crown Event Center in a hired minibus with 11 women from the cooperative that had made Ese Ibe's gift bags. They carried the boxes carefully, each one wrapped in brown paper and tied with green ribbon. Inside were hand-woven table runners, small jars of locally processed honey, and cards bearing the names of the women who produced them. Bola met them at the loading entrance. "What is this?" she asked, staring at the boxes as if they contained refuse. "The guest gifts," Halima replied. "Ese asked us to bring them before 9. Bola picked up one bag with 2 fingers. "This rough thing? It was made by hand. That is exactly the problem. It looks like something people receive after a village women aloes meeting." Halima Alo's face tightened. "Madam, 37 women worked on these for 6 weeks, and they have been paid." "Abi, not completely. Your office said the balance would enter yesterday." Bola turned to an assistant. "Move these boxes to the back store. The imported gifts are already arranged." Halima stepped in front of the trolley. "My daughter approved these ones." Bola lowered her sunglasses. "Your daughter is marrying into our family today. She should learn that approval has levels. Do not bring roadside craft into a hall where ministers and chairmen will sit." The women behind Halima heard every word. One of them looked down at her hands. Another quietly removed the cooperative badge pinned to her blouse. Halima did not shout. She simply placed her palm on the nearest box and said, "Work does not become dirty because the worker is poor." Bola smiled. "And poverty does not become elegance because you tie ribbon around it." She ordered security to move the boxes. At 9:03, Ese arrived and found Halima standing near the service corridor. Her lips pressed together. "What happened?" Ese asked. "I am managing." Ese knew that answer. In Nigeria, "I am managing" could mean a headache, an empty pocket, a broken heart, or a problem too heavy to explain in public. She touched Halima Alo's arm. "Mama," Halima told her. Ese walked straight to the gift display. The imported boxes were glossy, gold, and identical. On each lid, in large letters, was printed, "Curated by Bola Okoro." Ese opened one. Inside was a scented candle manufactured in Dubai, a plastic key holder, and a miniature bottle of imported syrup. "How much did these cost?" she asked the event coordinator. The woman hesitated. "Madam Bola handled procurement." "How much?" 31,000 naira per box, ma." There were 280 boxes. Ese did the calculation in her head. The cooperative Ilo's package had cost 9,400 naira per guest, including delivery. Every producer was to receive a recorded share. Bola Alo's imported package cost more than 3 times as much, and it carried no invoice inside the event file Ese had reviewed. Ese called Wale. He arrived 5 minutes later, still fastening one cufflink. When he saw the 2 gift sets, his face hardened. "Ubola!" His sister came from the ballroom with a tablet in her hand. "What is it now? Why did you replace the approved gifts?" "Because I saved this family from embarrassment. You spent over 8 million naira without approval." Bola folded her arms. "It is our event center. I negotiated a discount." "With which company?" Ese asked. Bola looked at her. "Must I submit my life to a woman who buys nylon from gutters?" Wale took one step forward. "Answer her." "Bola." Alo's voice rose. "Do not raise your shoulder at me because of this recycling princess. When she enters our family, will she also inspect the food in our mouths?" Ese picked up one of the cooperative Alo's bags. "These are the gifts that will be given out," she said. "The imported boxes can be returned if the supplier Alo's terms allow it. If not, the person who ordered them will explain the expense to the company." Bola laughed. "Listen to her giving orders." "I paid for the guest gifts personally," Ese replied. "You replaced property purchased for my wedding. That is not family authority. That is interference." The surrounding staff became very still. Wale told the coordinator to restore the cooperative bags. Bola walked away, but before she turned the corner, Ese saw the hatred in her eyes. At 10:26, another problem appeared. Halima Alo's seat card had been moved from the family table to table 29, beside the kitchen doors and behind a pillar. The people seated there were temporary staff and distant suppliers. There was nothing shameful about sitting with them, but the intention was clear. Mama Aisha had placed the woman who raised the bride where no camera would capture her. Ese found Aisha supervising the flower arrangement. Mama Aisha, Halima Alo's seat has been changed. Yes, Aisha replied without turning. The family table is full. There are 2 empty seats. They are reserved for important people. Halima is my mother. Aisha faced her then. My dear, let us not confuse emotion with position. She helped you when you were suffering. Fine, we thank God. But the first table is for people who represent something. She represents me. Aisha Salo's smile became thin. You have not yet understood how these things work. At a society wedding, seating is a message. Do you want newspapers to show one old woman in repaired cloth beside senators' aloe wives? Ese looked at the expensive flowers surrounding them. White roses flown in from Kenya, orchids placed in glass towers, gold chairs polished until they reflected the ceiling lights. Then she looked at Aisha. If your status cannot survive sitting beside the woman who raised your son Alo's bride, it is not status, it is fear. Aisha Alo's face changed. You have a sharp mouth for somebody entering this family with no visible background. My background is not invisible. You simply do not respect the people in it. Before the argument could grow, Wale came in. He listened once, lifted Halima Alo's card from table 29, and placed it beside his mother Alo's seat. She will sit here. See, he said. Aisha stared at him. You want to disgrace me? No, mummy. I want my wife, Alo's mother, to sit with the family. Do not say wife yet. The vows have not happened. Wale held her gaze. They will. By midday, the atmosphere behind the decorated walls had become tight enough to cut. The tailor who made Eseo's gown arrived to inspect a loose stitch beneath the train. She was a 62-year-old woman who had worked from a small studio in Yaba for 34 years. Bola saw her entering the bridal suite with a sewing case and blocked the doorway. Who allowed this cleaner inside? The tailor blinked. I made the gown. You? Bola looked her up and down. This hall is not a roadside tailoring shed. Finish whatever you are doing in 5 minutes. Ese heard the exchange from behind the changing screen. She came out in her slip and robe. Her name is on the access list, Ese said. She can take the time needed to secure the dress. Bola rolled her eyes. You have filled the entire place with old women and artisans. Are we doing wedding or poverty exhibition? The tailor Alo's hands paused over the lace. Ese stepped closer to Bola. You will not insult another person working on this ceremony. Bola gave a small laugh. And what will you do? I will document it. Something in the answer unsettled Bola more than a threat would have done. Ese did not say she would slap her. She did not boast about money. She did not promise revenge. She said she would document it. People who survive by hiding things fear records. At 12:41, Wale received a message from the hotel finance manager. A catering supplier had refused to release the final food trays because an earlier invoice remained unpaid. The amount was 6,311,000 naira. Bola insisted the supplier was lying. Wale checked the payment portal himself. The transfer marked completed had gone to a different account. Whose account is this? He asked. Bola snatched the tablet from his hand. Finance error. Why are you disturbing yourself on your wedding day? Because 290 people will soon sit down without food. I will handle it. No. You have handled enough. Wale called the supplier, confirmed the correct details, and authorized an emergency payment from the operations reserve. The food arrived at 1:18. Ese watched him from the bridal corridor. Your family company has a control problem, she said when he joined her. Wale rubbed his forehead. I know. No. You know there are delays. I am saying the problem may be deliberate. He lowered his hand. What have you seen? The replacement gifts, the supplier account, the unpaid cooperative. 3 different transactions, all through procurement. Bola manages procurement. Yes. Wale Alo's face became troubled. You think my sister is stealing? I think there is enough inconsistency to justify an audit. Thinking is not proof. He nodded slowly. That was Ese Ibe's way. She did not turn suspicion into guilt because anger wanted speed. At 1:36, Bola entered the bridal suite carrying a small paper bag. I brought earrings from Mummy, she announced. Ese was with the makeup artist and Halima. Her 3 personal bags were on a bench beside the wall. I already have earrings, Ese said. Mummy says these match the family necklace. Bola placed the paper bag near the bench. Then an assistant called Ese to inspect the cake table. Halima followed because the coordinator wanted her opinion on the traditional cloth backdrop. The makeup artist went to wash her brushes. For 9 minutes, the room was empty. During those 9 minutes, an event server entered through the service door carrying a gift bag. Her name was Mercy, and she had worked casual shifts at Astor Crown for 7 months. She was 24 years old and had not received her full wages for 6 weeks. Bola had approached her that morning. My sister, you said your mother needs money for treatment? Mercy Ibe's eyes had filled with hope. Yes, Ma. How much? 280,000 remains. Bola opened her handbag and showed her a transfer confirmation prepared but not sent. Help me carry 1 bag into the bridal room at 1:40. Put it beside the bride Alo's small handbag. Once you finish, I will send this money. What is inside? Mercy asked. Guest accessories. Are you now customs officer? Mercy shook her head quickly. No, Ma. She did as instructed. What she did not know was that the bag contained the velvet box. What she did not see was Bola entering through the main door 2 minutes later, removing the bracelet, sliding it into the side pocket of Ese Ibe's handbag, and leaving the empty box inside the gift bag. Bola wore gloves used by the decoration team. She thought that made her careful. But she used her secondary access card on the corridor door. She thought nobody tracked that card, and she turned the camera towards the wall. She thought that removed the record. What she did not know was that the camera mount logged manual movement, and the parking camera had captured her, taking the jewelry box from the boot of her car at 1:31. At 1:52, Bola entered the family lounge and shouted that her bracelet was missing. She made the accusation before checking her car, her changing room, or the jewelry cabinet. She named Ese first. Who else entered this place without wealth? She said. Search the bride. Mama Aisha did not ask one question. That was the part Ese would remember long after the red wine stain faded. Aisha did not hesitate because evidence convinced her. She believed the accusation because it matched what she had already decided about poor people. By 2:07, the ceremony had become a public spectacle. Now, 27 minutes after the bracelet was found, David Eze entered the hall. He wore a charcoal suit with a plain black tie and carried a leather document case worn smooth at the corners. He did not look like the kind of man Bola respected. There was no designer logo on his belt, no expensive watch flashing at his wrist, no assistant walking behind him. Bola saw him and laughed. Is this the barrister you called? From which charge and bail office? David stopped beside Ese. Are you physically unharmed? He asked. Yes. Has anybody seized your phone or attempted to remove you? No. Good. He turned to the manager. I need written confirmation that the footage has been preserved. Mama Aisha stepped between them. Who gave you authority to question my staff? David met her eyes. Your son. As operations director, authorized preservation. My client is the person publicly accused. I am advising her. Your client? Aisha repeated with contempt. How much is she paying you? I can double it. Take her outside and teach her to apologize. David's expression did not change. Madame, you cannot purchase professional ethics the way you purchase flowers. A sound moved through the hall. Half gasp, half laughter. Aisha Alo's face burned. Bola pointed at him. Do you know who you are speaking to? Yes, David said. Do you? Before she could answer, the manager returned with a laptop and the head of security. The head of security carried a printed access report. We have saved the video to the backup server, the manager said. But there is an issue. The bridal corridor camera was moved at 1:43 p.m. Ese looked at Bola. The manager continued. The system recorded manual rotation. Also, one access card opened the service door at 1:42 and again at 1:48. Whose card? Wale asked. The security officer checked the page. Madame Bola Alo's secondary card. Every eye turned. Bola threw her head back and laughed too quickly. That card was missing since morning. Did you report it missing? David asked. No, I was busy with wedding matters. Did you deactivate it? No. Who knew where it was? How should I know? Somebody stole it. Bola pointed suddenly at Mercy, who stood near the service wall with both hands clasped. That girl has been moving around everywhere. Search her. Mercy Alo's knees weakened. Ese saw it. She saw the panic, the shame and the desperate calculation of somebody who needed money more than she trusted truth. Mercy, Ese said softly. Come here. The young woman did not move. Bola shouted. Did you not hear her? Move! Mercy took one step, then another. Her breathing became loud. Ese did not ask whether she stole the bracelet. She asked, Did anyone instruct you to enter the bridal room? Mercy looked at Bola. That single glance was enough to change the room. Bola rushed forward. Speak! Mercy began to cry. I only carried a bag, Ma. Bola, Alo's mouth opened. Mercy covered her face. She said she would pay my mother Alo's hospital balance. She said it was guest accessories. I did not know about bracelet. God knows I did not know. Bola slapped her. The sound cracked through the hall. Mercy stumbled against a chair. Ese caught her before she fell. Wale seized Bola Alo's wrist. Are you mad? She is lying. Bola screamed. This useless server is trying to put dirt on my name because she wants money. Mercy cried harder. You promised 280,000 naira. You showed me the transfer. Liar! Bola reached for Mercy Alo's apron pocket, where the young woman Alo's phone was visible. Ese stepped between them. Do not touch her phone. That phone contains lies about me. Then it contains evidence. Mama Aisha rushed to Bola Alo's side. This girl is clearly the thief. Call police and carry her away. Let us continue the wedding. Ese stared at her. You want to hand the poorest person in the room to the police, so the wealthiest people can continue eating. She confessed that she entered the room. She confessed that she was instructed to carry a bag. Those are not the same thing, Aisha scoffed. You are defending her because both of you understand poverty behavior. Ese Alo's face became still. No, Ma. I am defending the difference between evidence and convenience. David asked Mercy to hand him the phone voluntarily. He placed it in a clear evidence bag supplied by security, sealed it, and wrote the time across the strip. This device should not be searched casually, he said. It will be reviewed with her consent and proper documentation. Bola shook her head wildly. Why are all of you behaving as if this is court? We have the thief. Take her away. Ese turned to the guests. Some had been filming from the moment the bracelet appeared. Some had laughed when wine stained her gown. Some now avoided her eyes. Before anybody is removed, Ese said, I want everyone here to understand something. Carrying a bag is an action. Planning what was inside it is another action. Knowing about a crime is different from being used by somebody who hid the truth. We will separate those things. Bola Alo's chest rose and fell. Ese continued, and nobody will force a confession, because a worker is frightened, unpaid, or poor. That is not investigation. That is hunting for somebody weak enough to carry another person Alo's guilt. The hall stayed silent. Then Halima stepped forward. My daughter knows that kind of fear, she said. Ese turned. No, Mama, no, let them hear. Halima faced the Okoro family table. When Ese was 19, she sorted plastic at a dumping site near Amuwo. Rain would fall, sun would burn, and broken bottles would cut people's hands. Some days she came home with 1,800 naira. Some days, nothing. Aisha Alo's lips curled. We already know she came from suffering. Halima ignored her. One afternoon, money went missing from the supervisor Alo's drawer. He locked 6 workers in a container and said nobody would leave until the thief confessed. He chose Ese first because she was the youngest, and because her slippers were torn. Ese Alo's eyes lowered. She had never told Wale that story. The money was later found inside the supervisor Alo's car. Halima continued. But nobody apologized. They only opened the container and told the workers to go home. That day, Ese said if God ever gave her power, she would not use another person Alo's hunger as evidence against them. Mercy looked at Ese through tears. Halima Alo's voice softened. She built her life from that promise. Bola laughed nervously. Built what life? A recycling shed? Halima looked at her. A life where she can sleep without fearing the people she cheated. That one landed. Bola Ilo's hand flew towards Mercy Ilo's phone again. This time, she tore it from David Ilo's grasp before he completed the seal. She lifted it high, ready to smash it against the marble. Ese caught her wrist. Their eyes met. Bola pulled, but Ese held firm. Ah, you were not afraid that I stole your bracelet, Ese said. You were afraid of what I might discover about you. At that exact moment, the main doors opened. Joseph Nwosu walked into the hall carrying a laptop bag and a thick grey folder. He looked at the spilled wine, the scattered contents of Ezo's handbag, and Bola Alo's hand trapped above her shoulder. Then he looked at David. I came as quickly as I could, he said. The preliminary procurement review is worse than we expected. Joseph did not raise his voice, yet the room bent towards him. He had the calm, tired face of a man who had spent 23 years opening files that powerful people hoped would remain closed. His suit was navy, his shoes were dusty from traffic, and a faint line of sweat darkened his collar. He looked nothing like the glamorous rescuers. People expected to appear in dramatic moments. He looked more dangerous than that. He looked prepared. Bola pulled her wrist free and stepped back. What procurement review? She demanded. Joseph placed the grey folder on the nearest table. The one your complaint authorized as part of the proposed Green Arc conversion program. Mama Aisha frowned. That audit is tomorrow morning. It was, Joseph replied. Recent events justified an immediate preservation review. Recent events? Bola scoffed. A family misunderstanding has nothing to do with business. Joseph looked at the bracelet in her hand. Does the company own that item? Bolalo's fingers closed around it. No, it is mine. Then you will not mind showing proof of personal payment. I do not answer questions from strangers at my brother Arlo's wedding. You signed 3 procurement declarations bearing my firm Arlo's reference number. I sign many papers. That is becoming clear. A murmur moved through the guests. Mama Aisha slapped the table with her palm. Enough of this rubbish. Who invited this man? David answered. He is the independent auditor, retained for the Green Arc transaction. Aisha turned to Wale. Send him out. Wale did not move. Mummy, if company money paid for that bracelet, he stays. Company money? Aisha looked at Bola. What are they saying? Bola rolled her eyes. They are trying to frighten you. This bride has gathered her village people to create confusion. Joseph unzipped his laptop bag. I am from Enugu, madam. Barrister David is from Delta. Mercy is from Ogun. Your accusation is geographically untidy. A few guests covered their mouths to hide laughter. Bolalau's cheeks tightened. Joseph opened his laptop and connected it to the event center, Alo's main display system. The screen behind the wedding stage, which had been showing a slideshow of Ese and Wale smiling beside the ocean, went black. Then rows of numbers appeared. Purchase order dates, supplier names, invoice amounts, approval codes. Joseph pointed to one line. On March 14th, Okoro Heritage Hospitality paid 4,200,000 naira to Crystal Vale Accessories for an executive hospitality gift. Bola Alo's lips parted. Joseph enlarged the attached invoice image. The item description read, 18-carat diamond bracelet, white gold setting, private delivery. The guests turned towards the bracelet in Bola Alo's fist. The asset register does not contain this purchase, Joseph said. No recipient was recorded. No board approval exists, yet the payment came from the company Alo's supplier account. Bola looked at Wale. It was a director Alo's benefit. Wale Alo's voice came low. There is no approved jewelry benefit, Mummy knew. Aisha jerked back. Do not put me inside this matter. You told me it was a personal gift from a client. Bola Alo's eyes widened. For one naked second, mother and daughter stared at each other, each realizing the other might not protect her. Joseph continued. On June 2nd, the same bracelet was insured for 14,800,000 naira. David looked up. More than 3 times the purchase price. The valuation certificate came from a firm connected to one of the entities under review. Joseph said. Bola grabbed the microphone. This man is twisting records. Jewelry appreciates. In 11 weeks? David asked. Do you know the diamond market? Do you? Bola Alo's breathing became rough. Joseph changed the screen. 3 company names appeared, each registered at a different address. Yet the contact numbers attached to their invoices ended with the same 4 digits. The bank account mandates showed links to former employees from Bola Alo's procurement unit. Between September 2022 and this month, Joseph said, 87,412,000 naira moved through transactions connected to these entities. 17 legitimate suppliers were delayed while the related companies received priority payment. The room seemed to shrink around Bola. A caterer near the back whispered, 17? Another supplier stood up. My company is among them. They owe us 9 months. A woman at table 19 lifted her voice. They owe my laundry cooperative too. One by one, the glamorous hall began to fill with the voices of people who had been told to wait, to manage, to come back next week, to understand that important families had temporary cash flow issues. Mama Aisha squeezed her face. No, this is not the place for market noise. S turned towards her. That sentence is why the problem grew. Aisha stared. You called their complaints noise because the people making them did not have titles. Your company kept using their work while delaying their money. Then you invited them into this hall and seated them behind pillars. I do not manage accounts. No, Ese said. But when they complained, you protected the family name instead of asking whether they were telling the truth. Aisha Alo's mouth opened, then closed. Joseph raised one hand, restoring order. "We have not completed a forensic audit," he said. "These are preliminary findings. They are sufficient to freeze document destruction, suspend affected approvals, and require formal review. They are not a criminal conviction." Ese nodded. It mattered that he said it. Even now, when the evidence pointed strongly towards Bola, Ese would not allow the crowd to become another mob. Bola had denied her that fairness. Ese would not return the cruelty in a different dress. David handed Mercy Allow's phone to Joseph after completing a fresh evidence seal. Marcy states that Bola instructed her to carry a bag into the bridal room in exchange for payment of a hospital balance. "Ah," he explained. "We need her consent before reviewing messages." Mercy nodded quickly. "I consent, sir. Please check everything." Joseph photographed the seal, noted the time as 2:41 p.m., and asked the security manager to witness the process. Bola shook her head. "She has deleted the real messages and created fake ones." "Then metadata will help us," Joseph replied. The security manager connected Mercy Allow's phone to a review device. It took 6 minutes to generate a message archive. Those 6 minutes felt longer than the entire wedding preparation. Nobody ate. Nobody called for music. Bola stood beside her mother, tapping one heel against the floor. Wale remained near Ese, but he did not touch her until she reached for his hand. Halima held the stained edge of the wedding gown away from the spilled wine. At last, the message appeared on the screen. Bola, 1:33 p.m. Take the brown bag through service door at 1:40. Put it beside the small white handbag. Do not open it. Mercy, 1:34 p.m. Ma, please remember the hospital money. Bola, 1:35 p.m. Once you finish, delete this chat. The hall erupted. Bola lunged towards the screen as if she could tear the words down with her hands. "This is fake," Joseph scrolled. A payment draft for 280,000 naira had been created from Bola Allow's personal banking app at 8:19 that morning, but never completed. Mercy began crying again. "You did not even send it," she whispered. "My mother is still waiting." Bola turned on her. "Your mother Allow's sickness is not my responsibility." The sentence came out before she could stop it. Something broke in the room. Not glass. Respect. Even Mama Aisha looked at her daughter differently. Wale walked to the stage and picked up the family pin he had dropped earlier. He held it in his palm for a moment, then placed it on the table before his mother. "I have defended this family for years," he said. "I have explained late salaries. I have begged suppliers for patience. I have accepted that business was difficult. But this is not difficulty. This is somebody feeding on the weakness of people who cannot fight back." Bola pointed at Ese. "She poisoned you against us." "No, your records did. You are disgracing your own sister because of a woman who came from a dump site." Wale looked at Ese, then back at Bola. "If Ese had no company, no car, and no account balance, what you did would still be evil." Mama Aisha grabbed his arm. "Do not say such things before guests." "Mummy, the guests watched you ask security to remove her veil. You were not afraid of public disgrace when you thought the disgrace belonged to her." Aisha released him. His words remained between them. Bola searched the room for support. Her eyes moved from wealthy relatives to business partners, from society women to the guests who had laughed at Ese. But people who had leaned towards her power minutes earlier were now leaning away from her danger. Then she made one last mistake. She pointed at Ese and shouted, "Even if I ask that girl to carry a bag, it does not prove this recycling woman is anybody. She is still beneath this family. Do you people know the kind of woman we are about to sign with? The founder of Green Arc is one of the most powerful businesswomen in this country. She sits with governors and international investors. This one cannot enter the same waiting room with her. Silence returned. David looked at Ese. Joseph closed his folder. Wale's eyes softened with something close to sadness. Ese stepped towards the stage. Her gown dragged through the red wine stain, leaving a pale pink trail on the marble. The veil still covered part of her hair, but one side had loosened where a guard tried to remove it. She looked neither defeated nor triumphant. She looked tired. "Bowler," she said, "who told you what the founder of Green Arc looks like?" Bowler blinked. "Everybody knows she keeps a low profile. So you have never met her. I do not need to meet her before knowing she is not you." "Why?" Bowler laughed. "Look at yourself. Your guardian came in repaired cloth. Your wedding gifts were made by women who carry goods in nylon sacks. You chose a local tailor. You work around waste collectors. Rich people do not live like that." Ese turned towards the screen. "Mr. Manager, please display the corporate documents Barrister David sent." Aisha snapped. "Do not put more rubbish on my screen." Wale faced the manager. "Display them." The screen went black once more. Then the green and white logo of Green Arc Circular Systems appeared. Under it came a document from the Corporate Affairs Commission, another from the Beneficial Ownership Register, an independently audited valuation, a board resolution authorizing negotiations with Okoro Heritage Hospitality. David read aloud, "Ese Ibe, founder, executive chair, 63.4% beneficial owner of Green Arc Circular Systems." The next page showed the audited value of her stake. 9,608,000,000 naira. A spoon fell from somebody else's hand. It struck the floor once. Nobody laughed. Bowler stared at the screen, then at Ese, then back at the screen. "No," she whispered. Mama Aisha Ilo's lips moved without sound. One of the society women who had recorded Ese Ilo's humiliation slowly lowered her phone. The hall was so quiet that the air conditioning sounded like distant rain. Bowler shook her head. "This is a setup." Wale arranged fake documents. Joseph turned towards her. "My firm verified those documents before accepting the audit engagement." David added, "I have served as Green Arc Alo's company secretary for 6 years. Bowler looked at him as though seeing him for the first time. The plain tie, the worn document case, the man she had called a roadside lawyer. Mama Aisha reached for a chair. "You are the owner?" she asked Ese. Ese looked at her. "I am one of the owners. Hundreds of employees, pension funds, and other investors also have interests in the company. That is why I cannot treat it like my purse." Aisha swallowed. "Why did you hide this from us?" "I did not hide it from Wale." Every face turned towards him. Wale nodded. "I have known for more than a year." Aisha Alo's shock sharpened into anger. "You knew? You allowed us to speak to her like this?" Wale stared at his mother. "I told you she owned a successful business. You decided that was not enough because she did not arrive with a convoy. I kept the full details because she had security and corporate reasons. But more than that, I wanted to know whether my family could respect a woman without first calculating her value." Aisha stepped back as if he had slapped her. Ese Ibe's gaze moved across the room. Some guests now smiled nervously at her. Others adjusted their clothes. A man who had called her Dustbin Bride 10 minutes earlier began clapping until nobody joined him, and the sound died alone. Ese lifted one hand. "Please, do not clap." He stopped. She turned to Mama Aisha and Bowler. "The money changes what you fear," she said. "It does not change what you did." Her voice did not tremble. "I deserved dignity when you believed I had nothing." The words traveled farther than shouting would have done. Bowler Alo's face twisted. "So what now? You will cancel the Green Arc contract and destroy us?" Aisha looked at Ese with sudden terror. The question exposed what mattered to them, not the slap Mercy received. Not the wine on Ese Ibe's gown. Not Halima Ilo's humiliation. The contract. Ese glanced at Wale. Pain passed between them, quiet and private. Then she faced Joseph. The proposed transaction is suspended pending a full forensic audit and ethics review, she said. All supplier balances should be verified. No record should be destroyed. Any employee who reports misconduct must be protected from retaliation. Bola laughed bitterly. There! Revenge! Ese continued. I am also recusing myself from every board vote connected to Okoro Heritage Hospitality because my marriage relationship creates a conflict of interest. Joseph nodded. That is appropriate. The independent directors will decide whether the transaction proceeds, changes, or ends. I will not use company capital to punish people, and I will not use it to rescue relatives from accountability. The difference was clear. Power could be used like a cutlass. Ese used it like a scale. Bola took 2 steps towards her. You cannot do this. We are about to become family. Ese looked at the hand that had slapped Mercy. Family is not immunity. Mama Aisha Alo's voice cracked. My daughter, let us go inside and discuss. This hall is full of outsiders. Halima laughed once without joy. Outsiders? She said. When you were insulting her, everybody was family enough to hear. Aisha lowered her eyes. Bola grabbed her mother Alo's arm. Do not beg her. I am trying to save what you have destroyed, Aisha shouted. Mummy, you joined them, Bola shouted back. You were the one who told security to remove her veil. And you planted the bracelet. Mother and daughter stood under the wedding flowers accusing each other while the guests watched. Ese closed her eyes briefly. This was not satisfaction. Not yet. Exposure was only the beginning. Justice would be what happened after the noise. She removed the loose veil from her hair. The pins came out one by one. She folded the fabric carefully and placed it on an empty chair. Wale watched her. Ese, he said softly. She turned to him. I cannot marry you in this room today. His face tightened, but he nodded. I understand. Mama Aisha rushed forward. No, we can clear the hall. We can apologize. The pastor is still here. Ese looked around at the wine, the scattered contents of her bag, and the phone still held in People Alo's hands. This wedding will not continue inside a room where cruelty was treated as entertainment. She took Halima Alo's hand. Then she walked towards the doors. Wale went beside her. No music followed them. Only silence. Outside the hall, Lagos continued as if nothing had happened. Cars pressed their horns along the road. A hawker moved between traffic with bottled water, balanced in a basin. The afternoon sun struck the glass walls of Astor Crown and broke into white light. Ese stood beneath the entrance canopy, breathing carefully. Only then did her hands begin to shake. Halima saw it and wrapped both arms around her. My daughter. Ese pressed her forehead against the older woman Alo's shoulder. I thought I was ready for them, she whispered. Nobody is ready to be disgraced. I could have told them everything from the beginning. And would that have changed their hearts? Ese did not answer. Wale stopped a few steps away. He had removed his jacket. Without the family pin, without the stage lights, and without the ceremony, he looked like the engineer she had first met beside dirty floodwater. May I speak to you? He asked. Halima looked at Ese. Ese nodded. They moved towards the quieter end of the driveway. Wale did not reach for her. I am sorry, he said. You did not plant the bracelet. No. But I knew what my family could be like. I kept believing I could manage it. Ese looked through the glass doors. Inside, figures moved around the abandoned tables. Managing a problem is not the same as confronting it. I know that now. You knew your staff were being paid late. Yes, you knew suppliers were complaining. Yes, and every time you told yourself it was cash flow. Wale Alo's eyes lowered. I wanted it to be cash flow. That is how decent people help bad systems survive. They choose the explanation that allows them to remain comfortable. The words hurt him. She saw it. But he did not defend himself. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Truth. Not protection from consequences. Not promises made because you are afraid I will leave. You have it. Ese studied his face. Then go back inside. Make sure Mercy leaves with David, not with your families as security. Make sure no employee is threatened. Give Joseph full access. And do not ask me to make a decision about us today. Wale nodded. I will do all of it. He took one step away, then stopped. For what it is worth, I meant what I said inside. Even if the documents had shown 0 naira, I would still have walked out with you. Ese's eyes filled, but she held the tears. That is worth more than the documents. Wale went back into the hall. Ese and Halima left in the same ordinary dark saloon car that had brought them. No convoy appeared. No crowd of bodyguards rushed forward. One security officer from Green Arc followed at a distance, as he had done throughout the day. By evening, clips from the wedding were already online. The first videos showed the bracelet, the wine, and Mama Aisha ordering security to remove Ese Ibe's veil. Later clips showed the corporate documents and Bola Alao's messages to Mercy. Social media did what social media often does. It chose heroes and monsters within minutes, cut long events into short pieces, and rewarded the loudest interpretation. Ese refused every interview request. Green Arc issued one statement through David. It confirmed that an internal conflict of interest protocol had been activated, that Ese had recused herself from decisions concerning Okoro Heritage Hospitality, and that an independent audit would determine the next steps. It also warned the public not to harass workers, relatives, or witnesses. That final line mattered. Mercy had already received messages calling her a criminal. Some people accused her of accepting money to frame Bola. Others published the hospital where her mother was receiving treatment. Ese ordered Green Arc Aloe's legal support fund to cover temporary counsel for Mercy, but the approval did not come from Ese alone. 2 independent officers signed it. The expense was recorded as witness protection connected to a business ethics review. The hospital balance was paid by a workers' Aloe Assistance charity, not as payment for testimony. Ese was careful. Help should not become another chain around a vulnerable person, Aloe's neck. The forensic audit lasted 23 days. During that period, Bola was suspended from procurement and denied access to company systems. Walter surrendered his own administrator privileges for independent review. Mama Aisha was asked to produce correspondence relating to supplier complaints and jewelry purchases. At first, Aisha fought everything. She called the audit disrespectful. She complained that strangers were entering family business. She phoned Ese 14 times in 2 days and left messages that moved between apology, accusation, and fear. My daughter, pick my call. Let us settle this as women. You should not allow outsiders to scatter the home you are entering. Bola has always been stubborn, but prison will kill her. Think of the workers if the company closes. Ese did not answer the messages. David replied formally that all communication should pass through counsel until the review ended. The findings were worse than Joseph Aloe's preliminary report. The 87.4 million naira was not one theft. It was a pattern. Bola had inflated cleaning chemical purchases by 32%. She had approved maintenance work at a guest house that never happened. She had used a former employee Aloe's company to bill the hotel for imported linen while buying cheaper local stock and keeping the difference. 17 suppliers were owed a combined 41,600,000 naira. Some had borrowed money to complete Okoro contracts. One catering business had sold its delivery van, after waiting 7 months for payment. The laundry cooperative had reduced its workforce from 32 women to 19. The tailor who repaired Ese Ibe's gown had an unpaid balance from a previous hotel order that Bola Ibe's office had disputed without evidence. This was the lesson hidden behind the chandeliers. Financial misconduct does not remain inside spreadsheets. It enters kitchens, school fees, rent payments, medical appointments, and the dignity of people forced to beg for money they already earned. The board of Okoro Heritage Hospitality met on a Monday morning at 10:47. Ese did not attend. Joseph presented the evidence. David attended only to explain the Green Arc conditions. Wale sat at one end of the table, while Mama Aisha sat at the other, with no jewelry on her wrists. Bola came with her lawyer. She denied criminal intent, but admitted directing Mercy to carry the bag. She claimed she only wanted to frighten Ese and stop the wedding long enough to investigate the bride Alo's background. Nobody accepted that explanation. The board removed her as procurement director. The case involving company funds, insurance documents, and evidence tampering was referred to the appropriate authorities. A court later approved temporary restrictions on selected assets while the financial claims were examined. There was no instant prison sentence. No judge appeared overnight. Real accountability moved more slowly than public anger, but it moved. The company sold 2 luxury vehicles and a collection of unused imported furniture. Bola agreed. Through a supervised settlement process, that recovered funds from certain assets could be applied towards supplier repayment, without ending any separate legal investigation. The first people paid were not banks or family directors. They were the smallest verified suppliers. Mercy cooperated fully. Investigators found no evidence that she knew about the bracelet or the wider financial scheme. Her role was documented accurately. She carried a bag after being deceived and financially pressured. She was not treated as blameless because she accepted a suspicious instruction, but neither was she made to carry a crime planned by somebody above her. That distinction saved her life from being permanently defined by one desperate decision. Mama Aisha Alo's reckoning was different. No document showed that she had taken money. No message proved she planned the wedding accusation. But dozens of emails showed that suppliers had written directly to her. She had forwarded some to Bola with comments such as, "Handle these noisy people, and do not allow small vendors to embarrass the family." The board asked her to resign as honorary chair. She refused at first. Then Wale read one email aloud. It came from the laundry cooperative, dated February 8th. The women explained that delayed payment had forced them to suspend health contributions for 6 members. Aisha had replied with one sentence. Serious companies do not cry over small delays. Wale placed the printed email before her. Mummy, they were serious enough to wash our sheets. Aisha stared at the page for a long time. Then she signed the resignation letter. Restorative justice required more than removal. Under the revised governance plan, Aisha attended mediated meetings with suppliers who agreed to participate. She had to listen without interrupting while they described what the delayed payments had cost them. The caterer told her about selling his van. The tailor told her that her assistants had gone unpaid for 3 weeks. The laundry cooperative told her about the women sent home. At the first meeting, Aisha defended herself. "I did not control the accounts," she said. Halima, who attended as an observer at the supplier's Alo request, answered quietly, "But you controlled who was allowed to speak." Aisha fell silent. She sold one of her personal cars and contributed the proceeds to the supplier restitution account. It did not erase what happened. It did not buy forgiveness. It was a beginning. 3 weeks after the wedding, Aisha asked to meet Halima alone. They sat in a community office with 2 plastic chairs and a standing fan that clicked every time it turned left. Aisha wore a plain cream dress. Her jewel was small. "I insulted you," she said. "I treated your clothes as if they measured your life. I pushed you away from the family table. I allowed my daughter to touch you. I am sorry." Halima listened. Aisha waited for the words that would release her. They did not come. Instead, Halima said, "An apology opens the door. Your actions will decide whether anybody walks through it." Aisha nodded, tears shining in her eyes. Halima did not hug her. Forgiveness was not a performance for an audience. Meanwhile, the future of Okoro Heritage Hospitality remained uncertain. Some Green Arc directors wanted to end the proposed partnership immediately. They argued that the ethical failures were too serious and that association with the Okoro name created reputational risk. Others pointed to the 418 employees who had not participated in the wrongdoing. Closing the hotels or forcing a rapid sale would punish cleaners, cooks, drivers, receptionists, and maintenance workers who had already suffered from management failures. Because Ese had recused herself, the decision belonged to the independent board committee. They approved a smaller, conditional program. The original 3.27 billion naira plan was replaced with a 12-month pilot. Okoro Heritage had to appoint an independent finance director, establish anonymous reporting, publish supplier payment data internally, and cap family control over procurement. Any invoice older than 30 days required board explanation. Green Arc funds would be released only against verified milestones. Wale supported every condition. He also stepped away from daily executive authority for the first 6 months. He applied, through an open process, for a role on a sustainable construction project not controlled by his family. His first interview did not go well. The second company rejected him. The third offered him a contract based on his drainage and energy retrofit experience. He accepted. Ese noticed that he never asked her to make a phone call. They spoke often, but carefully. Sometimes they met at Halima Alo's house and ate bean cake from paper plates. Sometimes they walked around the Green Arc training yard after workers had gone home. They discussed trust, family loyalty, financial boundaries, and the danger of hiding difficult truths under the excuse of peace. One evening, Wale said, "I used to think being a good son meant reducing conflict." Ese looked at him. "And now? Sometimes reducing conflict only protects the person causing harm." She nodded. "And I used to think keeping my wealth private was enough," she said. "But privacy can create confusion when 2 families are joining. I told you, yes. Still, we should have agreed on what your family needed to know and when." Wale shook his head. "Do not carry their cruelty as your mistake." "I am not. I am examining my own process. Accountability is not the same as blame." That was why their relationship survived. Neither of them used love to escape honest examination. 6 weeks after the abandoned ceremony, Wale asked Ese whether she still wanted to marry him. They were standing outside the community hall in Amuwo, Odofin, where Green Arc held weekend training for waste collectors and small suppliers. Ese looked through the open door. Women were arranging chairs. The walls needed paint. A generator coughed somewhere behind the building. "Yes," she said, "but not at Astor Crown." Wale smiled for the first time that day. "Where?" Ese pointed through the doorway. "Here." Their second wedding had 83 guests. There were no imported orchids. Local flowers stood in recycled glass bottles along the tables. The cooperative Alo's original gift bags sat at every seat, each carrying the name of the woman who made it. The caterer who had once sold his van provided the food after receiving full payment in advance. The laundry cooperative supplied table linen under a new contract. The tailor repaired Ese Ibe's stained gown. She did not cut away the fabric touched by the wine. Instead, she embroidered a thin green pattern across the damaged area, like a vine growing through a scar. When Ese put on the dress again, Halima Alo's eyes filled. "They will see the stain was there," Halima said. "Yes, you do not want them to think you could not afford another gown." Ese smiled. "Let them think what they like. This one has memory." Mama Aisha was invited. She arrived early and sat in the third row, not at a special family table. She wore no gold jewelry. When Halima entered, Aisha stood and greeted her with both hands. "Good morning, Ma." Halima answered, "Good morning." Nothing more. It was enough for that day. Bola did not attend. Her case was still moving through investigation and civil recovery. She sent Wale a message asking for forgiveness. He replied that forgiveness could be discussed, but accountability could not be negotiated away. At 11:17 a.m., Ese walked into the hall with Halima beside her. The room rose, not because a billionaire had entered, because the bride had. Wale waited at the front in a simple navy suit. When Ese reached him, he looked at the green embroidery on her gown. "You kept it. I repaired it." He understood the difference. Their vows were brief. Wale promised not only to love Ese, but to confront wrongdoing even when it wore a familiar face. Ese promised not only to stand beside him, but to speak difficult truth before silence turned into resentment. When the officiant pronounced them married, the applause rose warm and full. Halima laughed through her tears. Aisha clapped from the third row, then lowered her face and cried quietly. At the reception, Mercy stood near the back until Ese saw her. "Why are you hiding there?" Ese asked. Mercy twisted her fingers. "I did not know whether I should come close." Ese pulled out a chair. "Sit. You are a guest." Mercy Alo's eyes filled. "Ma, I am sorry I carried that bag." "You made a dangerous decision because you were desperate," Ese said. "Learn from it. Next time somebody with power tells you to hide an action, ask yourself why they cannot do it openly." "I will, Ma. And do not let shame make you disappear. Shame likes darkness." Mercy sat. Later, Ese addressed the guests for less than 3 minutes. She did not speak about billions. She did not name Bola. She did not describe herself as a woman who had defeated enemies. She spoke about work. "A company is not only its buildings and accounts," she said. "It is the cleaner waiting for salary, the supplier waiting for payment, the driver using his own money to buy fuel, and the customer trusting what we promise. When leaders delay what people have earned, they are not moving numbers. They are moving pain into somebody Alo's home." The hall became quiet. And dignity should never depend on information we discover later. We should not need to learn that a cleaner owns land, that a driver has a degree, or that a poor bride is a billionaire before we control our tongue. Respect that appears only after power is revealed is not respect. It is fear wearing good clothes. Halima nodded slowly. Wale reached for Ese Ibe's hand. The lesson of that wedding did not end with the family that caused the harm. Greenarch revised its own policies. Workers accused of theft or misconduct could no longer be suspended solely on a supervisor Alo's verbal claim. Evidence had to be preserved. Interviews required a witness. Wage arrears could not be used to pressure employees into private tasks. Serious romantic partners of senior executives received structured financial disclosure guidance to reduce secrecy, manipulation, and security risks. Ese insisted on one more policy: no disguise tests, she told the board. "We will not pretend to be helpless so we can trap people into revealing character. Character is observed through consistent behavior, not manufactured suffering." She knew some people would say she had tested the Okoro family by appearing poor. That was not true. Ese had never claimed to be poor. She had said she owned a business and supported herself. The family saw a simple car, local fabric, and a woman who loved waste workers. Then invented poverty around her. Their prejudice completed the disguise for them. Months later, Asta Crown Event Center looked different. The gold curtains remained, but supplier payment notices were posted in the staff office. An independent hotline number appeared beside the time clock. Gift items for corporate events carried producer information. Workers received salary on scheduled dates for 9 consecutive months. Mama Aisha sometimes visited the laundry cooperative. At first, the women watched her with suspicion. She did not demand smiles. She sat, listened, and helped organize a customer showcase using contacts she once reserved for society friends. When a newspaper praised her involvement, she asked that the article name the cooperative leaders instead. Change did not make the past disappear. It proved the future did not have to repeat it. Bola Alo's legal matters continued. Some funds were recovered. Some claims were contested. She entered a supervised restitution agreement relating to the suppliers, while separate questions about fraud remained before the authorities. The process was slow, imperfect, and far less dramatic than the wedding reveal. But each repaid invoice repaired something real. A business reopened. A worker returned. A hospital bill was settled. A person who had been ignored received proof that her labor counted. And that, more than public humiliation, was the justice Ese wanted. Whenever I think about this story, the moment that remains with me is not when 9.6 billion naira appeared on the screen. Money only changed what the proud people in that hall feared. It did not change what was right. The moment that matters came earlier, when Wale stood between Ese and the guards, while he still allowed everyone to believe she had nothing. He did not know whether the cameras would clear her. He did not know whether the contract would survive. He only knew that nobody deserved to be stripped of dignity before evidence was heard. Life rarely tells us in advance who a person will become, what account they control, or whose signature may one day matter. Most people we meet will never reveal a secret fortune. They will remain cleaners, drivers, traders, artisans, servers, carers, and ordinary workers whose names may never enter a newspaper. That is exactly why respect matters. Not because the poor person might secretly be rich. Not because karma may return with bodyguards. But because human dignity is not alone granted by the powerful. It belongs to everybody from the beginning.